Hey everyone, welcome to this episode of Digidex, the worst gaming podcast on the internet. My name is G.
And I am Ben.
And in today's episode, we are going to talk about a lot of video game trailers, a lot of recent video game coverage, and some future video game news that we have all been exposed to in the last few weeks. State of Play, or PlayStation State of Play, was just a couple days ago as of recording of this. And we have a few other trailers that came out trickling through, I would say, a few weeks before that. So we're here to talk about that today, maybe with some other gaming news, but also, for those of you listening to the audio on your favorite podcasting app, and if this is your first time, you should listen to us on your favorite podcasting app. We do probably have the YouTube video on our YouTube channel, which is just Digidex, just look that up, and you'll see our logo. You should probably see our video version of this, where we are playing a kind of a loop of trailers from the State of Play, as well as other gameplay trailers on the YouTube channel. You'll be able to see us in that as well, so it's kind of a cool little pairing to the audio podcast. Anyway, that's enough out of me. Ben, where we starting?
Oh dang! I was about to give more context for the fact that this is an experiment for us, because it's both, to lay it out, because you said a confusing drill.
Yeah.
For the first time ever, we're recording video as well as audio, so they will be able to see this on YouTube. And then also, instead of doing our normal format where we discuss a specific gaming topic and then punctuate it with gaming news and then some opinions at the end, there's so much gaming news that we're just doing news this time. Specifically, as you said, the different series and like PlayStation coming out with everything. Yep, now I'm dragging on. What are we talking about first? That's a good question. Should we start with the State of Play stuff?
We should start at State of Play because there's a lot of stuff in here.
Okay.
Is there anything in particular you want to cover first? Any interesting things? There was a lot of trailers. Decent amount of trailers from State of Play this time around.
I'll start a little bit on actually the sidelong side, because there are obviously some really big games that have been announced and given trailers.
Yeah.
On the smaller side of things, they have announced that they have a few PlayStation VR games that are coming out, which I really hope don't just stay as PlayStation VR so I can play them. Specifically, one of them, they're actually doing a Horizon VR game.
Yeah.
That looks really interesting, I'm going to be honest. Like, to me, at the very least, I don't know how working in that world and interacting with the robotic creatures will be in VR. Like, it could be awesome, it could be horrible, who knows? But I watched that trailer and I'm a little sad I don't have a PSVR now.
Or a PS5. Do you have a PS5 now?
I don't have a PS5 yet.
Yeah.
I will eventually, when I have money. Along with that, they also announced the Resident Evil Village VR mode, which I am very much looking forward to as well. I played a little bit of Resident Evil...
was it 7?
Yes, 7. Resident Evil 7 in VR, and that was terrifying. But they actually announced a fistful of VR games that I'm rather excited about. I wasn't expecting them for their big announcements to so early on have that many VR titles. VR still feels like a semi-alien concept to me, despite the fact I actually own a headset, where it feels like whenever I see like a big actual announcement ceremony, I just don't expect to see VR. It feels like VR is just too small still. So actually seeing it like up front and center there for even a little bit was a bit surprising, and actually it was nice for me. I really liked seeing that.
It made sense for me because PlayStation, at least on PS4, a lot of people had that VR headset.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe they're calling this the PlayStation VR 2 is what they're calling the PS5's headset.
Yes, they are.
Games like the Walking Dead game that they have coming out, and even speaking with Resident Evil Village, the fidelity of those VR experiences is going to be very interesting, because it's no longer the low res kinds of games, because obviously PC has to work for a bunch of different systems. They have those higher fidelity VR games for PC, obviously, but some of those are not AAA titles outside of, like, say, a Resident Evil 7, and there's some other ones I'm missing here, but like No Man's Sky coming out on VR is
that was the
wild.
Other one. I forgot they were showing off No Man's Sky VR in State of Play, didn't they?
They actually, it's funny because I think I just went by it as I mentioned it. But
Yeah, because now they're announcing it will run on the PlayStation VR. I have actually played No Man's Sky PC VR. I'll be honest, every now and then when it kind of chugs a little bit, because that's just what No Man's Sky does to me. No Man's Sky has become a rather good game, but every now and then it'll take like 3 seconds and decide that it doesn't want to work. It's a little jarring in VR, but outside of like those every now and then 3 seconds, it is so good in VR. Like I still have a tendency to just hop into No Man's Sky every month or two.
Yeah.
And then I basically just do like pirate raid kind of stuff. I literally just fly around until I see a convoy and then I just attack it, get as much resources as possible, and then try and buy a bigger fleet. But yeah, actually like flipping around in VR is so nice. So I'm really happy that they're trying to like push that more.
Yeah. I'm excited for that. And I want more VR stuff. I think it's becoming way more of a mainstream thing. Maybe the reason why you and I don't hear too much about it, and it still feels a little bit in that area of gaming taboo, is because of the cost. Obviously, the Oculus 2 is pretty. Was that $250 right now for that?
Yeah, $250 for the base version.
Yeah, for the base version. So that's pretty accessible, but not everyone has a PC that can run that.
Yeah. Well, that being said, I'm sorry, I'm selling this, and I'm going to sell this, and then we should move on because we want to save actually talking about VR for like its own episode because I have some thoughts on it.
True.
But with the Oculus Quest 2, which has been renamed to the Metaverse Quest 2.
Nah.
Yeah.
I refuse to accept that.
Yeah. The Oculus Quest 2 runs on its own, and it's only certain games. So, like, basically, Beat Saber is all I really play on it when it's on its own. But there is that bit which is helping make it more mainstream, is the fact you can get an Oculus Quest 2 and just run the games on that.
Yeah.
It might not look as good, and you might be a little more limited on your library, but it does still run a lot better than I expected. But no, I do think that there are still issues with price, and there's issues with the number of games that are just specifically for that work well. Like there's a lot of adaption games like, oh, maybe we can do maybe we can try and do a shooter. Maybe we can try and do this. Maybe we can try and do that. And it's like, all right, but you need to come up with mechanics that are, VR mechanics. Anyway, I'm getting off topic. Point is, excited, and honestly, I'm super stoked that they showed off VR games, in a massive announcements.
And it's like heading the massive announcements too, right? It was like some of the first things they showed were the VR games.
I think it was literally the second thing they showed. The first thing they showed was
Resident Evil.
Resident Evil, yes.
It was Resident Evil, and then Resident Evil Village led into was like the first one they showed for the VR stuff.
Yeah. Speaking of which, Resident Evil 4 remastered.
Okay, yeah. A lot of thoughts on that one. Very excited. Very, very excited. Resident Evil 4 is one of the best video games of all time. Don't at me. I like that they're doing this treatment. Obviously, they've had the remakes for 2 and 3, and 1, 2, and 3, right? And with the remakes, obviously being like on the RE engine, they have added additional things. They've changed some small things here and there, but base gameplay from the original games. If you played through them, you'll be able to play the remakes and understand what's going on and understand the patterns of things. I am wondering what they're going to do for RE4 to change it. There's a quirkiness to RE4, like shooting a crow and then getting ammo out of it, right? Or some of the random things that would just randomly happen on the map sometimes, which can be down to a little bit of the games at the that time period. Games bug out, games glitch, that sort of thing. But I wonder if they're going to lean into that. I wonder if the merchant's still going to be this weird pirate guy, or whatever he is.
I'm curious how that'll all play out because obviously Resident Evil has kind of the balance of quirky, weird, as well as like horror action. And we've seen some games where that didn't play out super well. But the thing I'm really curious about is how the change in graphics will actually affect how the different aspects of the game come off.
Yeah.
Because it's something we were discussing last night, specifically when it comes to goddamn Disney movies and making live action versions. But it's a topic that when you take the same story and you regurgitate it basically, but with like a different presentation, depending on the presentation, it can really change aspects of it.
Yeah.
So I'll say my hope and my worry, so I'm not just saying abstract shit. My hope is that things looking a lot tighter and nicer will add this layer to it where the horror moments are even scarier, but then when shit decides to be kind of silly, it's even fucking stranger and like alienating. My concern is that with the new shiny, really nice graphics, that it might, to put it simply, take itself a little too seriously. I don't think that's going to happen, but if they change too much and they have the graphics set in this really gritty, dark, damp kind of thing, it might reach the point where like the original spirit is kind of lost. Yeah. I don't think that's going to happen. And I am super excited to play it. And I'm going to be entirely honest here. I'm actually not the best person to talk about all of this because I haven't finished RE4. I've only made it about halfway through.
Okay.
So I'm actually looking forward to it, especially because I would like to play through the whole thing. But I'd like to play through an updated version of it. So I'm excited for it, but I'm also like a little concerned just because I know previously with films and games, like there are occasions where like shifting how it looks can kind of change the overall feel of it. But, I mean, they've done such a good job with 1 and 2 that, I've got a lot of faith in them.
I don't think they're going to take too much away from like the quirkiness about it, just based on how Resident Evil 8 was. Resident Evil 7, in more parts than not, felt more on that horror game side of things, and it was presented that way. The DLC for that felt a lot more in that kind of quirkiness that you remember from some of the older games, that kind of B-movie-esque feel. For RE7, but RE8 I think RE8 had a lot of character to it, even the villains in there, the bosses and such.
Quite definitely.
And even Ethan as a character had more character, so it feels a lot lighter hearted despite that, and it feels more arcadey. It doesn't feel like it's trying to delve too much into the horror movie-esque feelings that RE7 had. But in RE4 for me, it's definitely more of like an action movie than a horror movie, in my opinion, if we were to relate it to movies. But there's more of like an action feel. So I'm wondering like what that's going to be, because playing as Leon's more of a self-serious character, and just thinking back to just playing RE4 has always felt very much like an arcade style game, right? It's kind of, kill the boss, move on, kill enemies, move on, gain new guns, that sort of thing. So I'm wondering what more of a story flair they're going to put in here to add more feeling to it. But I don't think that, I mean, you're right. It is everything you've mentioned are things to worry about because we don't exactly know, right? I
don't mean to throw them out like, hey, we should worry about these. Yeah. It's just from watching it, those are my first two thoughts. It was A, which is everybody's thoughts. Holy shit, they're making it.
Yep.
Like, oh my God. And then B, oh, but they're making it.
I guess for me, I never had a doubt in my mind they were making it because, especially since Village. Did you play through Village at all?
I beat 7. I am 3/4 the way through Village.
Okay.
I'll be honest, it was when I was up in Minnesota doing the overnights.
Gotcha.
So I basically got down here and I haven't had the chance to finish it yet.
Gotcha. There are a lot of nods to 4 in there. But ultimately there are a lot of things like a lot of people suspect 4 and Village are connected in terms of story and things of that nature, which makes sense. Which I'm interested to see if that is a thing, if they dive into it in the remake. But I can say that I am fairly confident that this is going to be just as good as we're hoping. I'm fairly confident at that, and that's just based on the previous games that have come out.
Also, I do think that the engine is going to help them out quite a bit
RE
because
engine. Whew.
I don't think I've seen anything that's come out on RE engine that was like bad.
Nope.
Like even
Rise.
how to put it? Yeah, probably the worst looking game I've seen on RE engine is Rise.
Yeah.
And Rise looks great.
Rise looks great. Yeah.
It looked great on Switch. It looks great on PC. Like, yeah, I think with the experience they're getting from working with RE Engine and the experience of remastering like the older games, and I agree. I think it's going to be good.
Yeah.
I'm excited for it.
Yeah. And since we can't exactly like go through every single thing from the state of play, because there's a lot, right?
There is a lot.
We can't exactly have our own opinions on every single one of those. Another game that I'm curious about, if you were, I mean, obviously we want to talk about Stray, if we want to hop into that real quick.
Oh yeah, see, I thought you were gonna go for the horror game, but yeah, Stray.
Oh yeah,
Stray's a
I'm
good
saving
jumping off
that
point.
because I have there's stuff. There's way more to that to talk about. But Stray is a completely new IP.
Yeah, we'll talk Stray. We'll take a break from the horror based tomfuckery, and we'll talk about Stray because we got the trailer up for that. I mean that was announced a while ago. Like I remember seeing stuff for it, but now that like, God, how to put it, Stray's been in this weird place for me where I really haven't cared about it. Like I saw the first post like, oh, there's this game where it's like this kind of cyberpunk city and you're able to play as a cat. And I was like, okay, that's cool, I guess. And then I recently basically got a chance to watch the newest trailer and like take a second and look at it, get a feel of the universe they're trying to build up and like the different characters and how stuff interacts. And I'm kind of psyched for it. Like it looks good.
It looks good.
Again, like God, how to put it? It reminds me of two things. It reminds me of, obviously it reminds me a bit of Cyberpunk because Cyberpunk just did the build the cities really cool, like, and also gritty at the same time. But that's just Cyberpunk in general, not just the game. And my brain just died.
I
looked straight into that light
and just lost everything.
And it's just entirely gone. Sorry, it reminds me of Cyberpunk, and then it also reminds me of not a video game. It reminded me quite a bit of Love, Death, and Robots. Specifically the one animation that they did a sequel to in the newest season, I think.
Three Robots.
Three Robots is great. Also just watch Love, Death, and Robots in general. It's a bit of a rough watch, but it's pretty visceral.
No, I'm sure everyone's familiar based on the way clips have been circulating for a while.
Based on the clips and who we are and who our audience is going to be. Obviously, people know this. But it reminded me of both of those, but the better parts of both, if that makes sense. So like with Cyberpunk, the city building looks great, but it also looks very weird. It's weird because in the trailer the city looks lived in but also abandoned. Like in Cyberpunk you walk around and there's so much fucking garbage everywhere and it's just like, oh yeah, there's people here I guess, but this is bad. But it's, Cyberpunk city. But in Stray it looks like, I don't know how to describe it, but things are where they need to be. It's like aesthetically pleasing, and it looks like a place you'd see people building lives, but they're just not there.
Yeah.
Which immediately puts it on the list for me as something I want to play, because it's like anything that can evoke that strong of a feeling from just like a trailer, like I'm down for it. I think it's going to be an experience.
So do I. I've been excited for the game since I think the logo reveal like happened like a year ago or something like that for the game. Or I think they did preview this game too. I think it was a previous trailer, but it wasn't that long. But yeah, I really just enjoyed it for what it was. I figured obviously the only living things you see, quote unquote living, are the robots, the robot humanoids that are around in that trailer. And I thought that, hey, wow, this is a great concept for a game. And the thing that impressed me the most was the cat animations. The animations for that cat are really well done. But I don't really have much else to say on it because you kind of covered. The majority of it.
Yeah, apologies. I really dug into that just right off
no,
the
straight up.
bat.
I mean, like, I think the biggest difference is that you weren't that excited from the get go, but I was, because anything that involves like that sort of very subtle but new concept in gaming that immediately grabs my interest. For me, so when I saw the reveal stuff for that like a year ago, I was like immediately like, I can't wait to see a full trailer for what this is about.
Yeah, no kidding.
But yeah,
no, looks great. I would like to bring the topic straight back into survival horror.
Yep.
And I'd like to talk about the new Sonic game. Okay, go ahead.
Do you want to talk about the Sonic game first, or do you want to talk about the new Dead Space?
Well, I was making a joke.
Okay.
But
okay, gotcha. Roger that.
We're talking survival horror, new Sonic.
New Sonic. Oh, we'll get into that. Oh, we'll briefly get into that.
We'll briefly get into that. It is what it is. Well, we okay. I think we should wrap up the state of play stuff. I want to talk 2 more topics from state of play.
Okay.
I want to talk the new basically Dead Space game.
Yep.
And then I want to talk the new Final Fantasy.
Okay, because I had one
thoughts.
I have
Final
one
Fantasy,
more thing on that.
Oh god!
I wanted to bring
state of play is really
well. I mean,
really,
it's a lot of trailers and there's a lot of like
it's a lot.
A lot of really like for me, I was going to talk about Street Fighter 6 in that trailer.
Oh yeah, sorry. I literally for some reason I thought that the Street Fighter 6 was a different.
It has a completely different feel than the rest of State of Play, so I totally get that.
Yeah. Let's start with Street Fighter 6. I want to be happy for a bit.
Yeah.
Did I see open world mechanics?
So for those of you who haven't seen the trailer, Street Fighter 6, one of the coolest things in this trailer is that it has like an overworld now, an open world. Looks like you can fight different people in this open world, and it looks like a create a character situation. Mm-hmm. Which is really fucking cool. It's like a weird also, Shenmue Street Fighter, right?
It looks like there's also supposed to be multiplayer play in the open world.
In the open world, something like that. Which is what I'm seeing people speculating. It might not be that. We'll see when we get a little bit more. I think we're supposed to get a bit more about it in another month here or so.
Also, did they officially say if it was like a create a character kind of thing?
So Street Fighter 5, I know you're not a fighting game person that much, but Street Fighter,
I need to get into it.
The last character for Street Fighter 5, his name was Luke, and Luke is the first guy you see punching the punching bag and narrating the trailer.
Okay.
So he's like, the Shotos in a video game are the 2 mains. So Ken and Ryu have always been the Shotos for Street Fighter. And so Luke, it looks like Luke, and then the other guy whose name I'm blanking on right now for some reason, the drunken fighter guy. Those 2 might be the 2 Shotos of this game in a way.
Okay.
But it's like it's cool because it's like my favorite thing is this game has this urban theme to it, right? The trailer has really good hip hop to it. It's like, oh wow, we're finally fighting on the streets. We haven't done this since actually the 90s. So it's like since actually the Street Fighter games in the 90s, the last one I think that was like that. Anyway. But it looks like a create a character situation for the overworld thing because there you can see some frames there where it's definitely no character that exists in the game. But I love that everyone's aged up properly. I love just the aesthetic of everything. The fighting looks the fighting visuals
the fighting
are crazy.
Looks amazing.
The animation's insanely good looking.
Yeah.
I'm pretty hyped for it personally, and I'm glad that obviously the community is because everyone's been playing Street Fighter 5 for the last decade, by the way. So this one's looking to be a next strong iteration on it, and it's going to have its own mechanics, obviously its own gimmicks and stuff. But a lot of people have already done 1,000 breakdown videos, so I'm not going to get into that. And I'm not exactly the biggest fighting game expert. I just like playing them. So you guys can definitely look those up. I think Maximilian Dude, if anyone listening knows him, he has 1,000 videos on this already. So not really 1,000, but But anyway, Street Fighter 6, check out that trailer out alone. Even if you don't play fighting games, I think that trailer is just hype as shit.
It really is. I have not been keeping up with Street Fighter for a number of games. I'll be honest, when the intro started, I wasn't sure if that was like a Street Fighter character or if it was like a creative character. Like I did not know Luke at all.
Yeah.
So I was like, who is this? At first I didn't know it was Street Fighter. I was like, oh, we're actually doing like a Street Fighter like game, maybe like a city brawler. And then of course I'm trying to remember which character was the first one that popped up that was recognizable.
I think it was Ryu who pops up.
Yeah, I think it was Ryu.
Yeah.
I think it was Ryu. But you know, it looks really, really good.
Yeah.
Like I'm probably gonna pick it up.
Again, RE engine, by the way.
Another RE engine. Capcom.
Capcom fucks, dude. It's one of my favorite companies.
How did Capcom go from that kind of company where people sort of like their games, but they're just sort of laughed at as, oh yeah, at one point they kind of competed with other people, and now they're like the cool ones again.
I guess for me, they've never not been the cool ones. One thing I learned once I moved out of New York City is that, Capcom games don't seem to be as popular in places in the States outside of like the major cities. Like growing up, everyone played Street Fighter, everyone loved Mega Man, everyone loved like Devil May Cry, everyone loved Marvel vs. Street Fighter or Marvel vs. Capcom games, stuff like that. So growing up for me, it was like I was always surrounded by people who were just super into Capcom content and Resident Evil, obviously. But then when I moved out of New York City, it was like a lot less. I found a lot more like Nintendo fans or PC fans of things.
Yeah, and I suppose my view is a little skewed because I tend not to play the more mainstream Capcom games, oddly enough. But yeah, it is what it is.
You should hop in during my Street Fighter V stream I'll be having later this week. Or Street Fighter V as well as Devil May Cry 5. You should probably hop in later this week and watch those.
Dude, I'll hop in. I'll definitely hop in.
But now if you want to move past that, because I don't want to continue gushing. I'll make my own video on that later. But we got to talk about Dead Space, or it has a different name.
It's not Dead Space.
It's not Dead Space.
Because there, clarification. Okay, I think I'm correct on this. There are two games that have technically been announced. They're coming out. There is the one which I don't have the trailer up on my end right now, but I can try and find it.
Yeah.
That is being made by a lot of the original developers of Dead Space who moved over to a different studio.
Yes.
And it looks like it's going to be another. God, how to put it? Can you find the name of it real quick?
Yeah, totally.
I'm blanking on the name.
Totally. Actually, I'm going to go ahead and reset my video here and go back to that. I think you're right. On that.
Hold on, let me check here.
I'll vamp while you're doing that. But yes, I'm excited for another one of those. Dead Space, all of the Dead Space games. They were my college games. Going to college, I love those games to fucking death. And
Callisto Protocol.
Yes. I knew Protocol was in there. Fuck. Man, that trailer was insane for that, right?
It was absolutely
that trailer
crazy.
Was insane for that.
But anyway, so there is the Callisto Protocol, which is being made by the original developers just under a different name.
Yeah.
And then there is the Dead Space remake, which is coming out. And if I remember correctly, they were talking about continuing Dead Space.
I think so. I think
they're going to do the remake and see how that turns out.
Yes.
But I think from what I've heard, a new actual Dead Space is in the works. But that doesn't matter because the Callisto Protocol is coming out and it looks scary as fuck.
It looks very good.
I was watching it and I just kept jumping back and forth from like, oh, this is a Dead Space game to, oh, this is definitely not a Dead Space game. I don't know how to describe it. They've done a good job of, from what I saw, making horrifying monsters with very creative body horror designs that aren't just what they've done before. Like they had a couple in there that were obviously like, yeah, shoot the limbs. But they also had a good number in that looked a little more on kind of the zombie side of things, if I can be honest.
Yeah.
But in a way that I was kind of okay with it. Like despite the fact they looked just kind of like mechanically like shamblers basically, they still had like this really fucked up body horror thing going on.
They've married sci-fi and body horror, not just a typical, not just generic body horror. They look, not to cut you off, but to me they felt like, oh wow, these look biologically terrible.
Oh yeah.
But not just like decay. You know, you have like body horror that's just decay and flesh missing and stuff. These look like there's something in their biology that's deforming them alongside the decay. It's really cool.
Yeah, it looks really, really cool. Yeah. The gameplay looks awesome. I love how to put it. I'm happy that they have switched over kind of the main character a bit, because obviously the Dead Space character of it was Isaac, right?
Isaac, yep.
Yeah, Isaac, and being like a mechanic basically, or a technician, worked really well. But like into a new game, I'm happy that they didn't just kind of throw in an incredibly similar, like, yeah, he's a mechanic.
Yeah.
But it's actually, it looks like he's
a prisoner
on a prison world.
They showed a teaser trailer, I think last year at some point, or earlier this year. Yeah, he's a prisoner.
Yeah, he's like a prisoner. So the whole like survival crafting is probably going to be insane.
Yep.
Like, I'm curious how much of the game you're going to be going through without like decent armor or anything.
That's what I'm curious about. This seems like it's going to be that almost perfect marrying of a Souls-like level, level shifting. Like, you got to go back to places to unlock things, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
But then also having that kind of Dead Space hesitation with your shots, like plan your shots out. Plan when you heal, that sort of thing. Just I can't really say anything else than just the fucking visuals of this.
Yeah,
it has the visceral look of everything. I'm happy we live in an era where we can have a game like this, because I would love to see how Dead Space would look in this era of gaming, right?
God, I always love the thought of, can you imagine taking like one of these game trailers and showing it to someone from like 30 years ago?
Yeah,
and being like, this is what a video game looks like now.
Blow their fucking minds. Yeah. But the
Callisto
Protocol, yeah, and it's by Striking Distance. That's the studio.
That's what they're called.
Striking Distance is the studio.
Yeah, I forget how many people went over from the original Dead Space team, but if I remember correctly, it was a good chunk of them.
It was a decent amount of them, I think.
Also, not that necessarily means everything. Like, I mean, a lot of people talk. It's like, oh, we got the developers from this one game, and now they're doing another thing, which is awesome. But also, like, I think there needs to be space to allow for like, oh, but people who are passionate about something like this, like Doom 2016 is a perfect example.
Yeah.
It's like one of the best Doom games, depending on which one is your favorite. And it was a group of people who had not obviously worked on the original Doom series, and they were just passionate about it. And, there you go. Also incredibly talented. But yeah, no, I'm looking forward to it. It looks good. It looks like it's gonna feel good, and it looks like it's gonna scare the shit out of me. So
that's what I'm waiting for. It's a headphones on, lights down, lights off situation.
Yeah. RTX on.
Yeah, RTX on.
Ray tracing enabled.
I am hyped for that one. There's a few things in this that are coming out that I'm hyped for. What was the last game that you had mentioned before we move on? Out of state of play.
Very, very briefly, I wanted to touch on the new Final Fantasy.
So,
because there's a trailer out for it, and it's a new Final Fantasy.
I don't know if people are ready for the levels of hype that I'm hoping this game brings. It's the next numbered Final Fantasy game, right?
Mm-hmm. It's been a little bit.
It's been a little bit, and it looks like it's bringing in all of the new mechanics and more from the previous Final Fantasies. Because for those of you who know, Final Fantasy has taken a turn from being just turn-based and is now a more Devil May Cry-esque combat system.
I'd call it more. Well, it's a cinematic fighter.
It's much like Kingdom Hearts in terms of combat. You're scrolling through your menus using spells, things of that nature, while you're on the go. The reason I bring up DMC or Devil May Cry is because of just like how quick you're fighting, like the level of action and combos in that. Because Final Fantasy VII remake, I don't know if you've played that.
I've played a bit of it.
So the combat in Final Fantasy VII remake reminds me. But it's a Capcom situation, so it makes complete sense, right?
Yeah.
But I know Capcom for Devil May Cry, but obviously Final Fantasy is getting some inspiration for that. But Final Fantasy 15 had that as well.
Final Fantasy 15 was almost hyperactive in its combats. Yeah. Also to the point of really stupid stuff that was fun. Like, I can't remember his name, but the one guy who would just stop mid-fight and take pictures of everybody.
Oh, right.
And then you could actually go over and, like, pull out the album book, and it's like, hey, here's that time we killed God.
You guys remember when we killed a deity? But I,
You know, so
yeah,
I'm excited for it. I want the hype train to keep building until it turns into a rocket ship, and I want it to be good. The last one I enjoyed the shit out of. I've played Final Fantasy Online. I know it has an official number, but that's just what I've always called it. And I'm excited for it. Just seeing a trailer is cool. It feels like more and more they're trying to bridge the animated movies with the games
I can
to
see
the
it.
point of like judging by the trailer, it looked like mid combat, depending on like stagger moves and stuff that you do, the camera can literally like go full anime, just like grab and then switch over and zoom in on a target while they're getting stunned.
Yep.
So it looks like they're really trying to go for that visual fidelity. But yeah, it looks like it's gonna be good.
Yeah.
I'm excited for it when it eventually comes out. There's
a lot of like Strangers in Paradise, I think is what it's called, or whatever. The one that came out recently. It's like a Final Fantasy 1 remake or something like that. It's the one where the guy says chaos all the time. He's just complaining about fucking chaos. He hates chaos or something. Anyway.
I don't think I played that. What is?
Yeah, Strangers in Paradise. It came out like a couple months back, maybe like 4 or 5 months ago.
Strangers. Yeah. Oh, Final Fantasy Origin.
Yeah.
Oh.
That one felt like a bridge game. Like it definitely doesn't have the fidelity of this.
Yeah,
game
it
at
looks
all.
like a bridge game.
Yeah.
It looks like one that they'd like drop on. Obviously not anymore, but it looks like an in-between game they drop on like the PSP.
Mm-hmm. Even story-wise, I'm very curious. Like all of the war between all of the summons, all the various like gods and stuff, like fighting each other and stuff.
Like war between the gods, but then it also looks like because there's always an empire.
Oh
right?
yeah, absolutely, yeah.
But it looks like you belong to that empire. And judging by what the emperor/king was saying, it's like, man, this might get interesting.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know if we're the good guys right away.
Yeah, it may not seem like we are. It may be a situation of your character having to, leave his kingdom and go on a better journey. But it's amazing seeing like all the fights between all the summons. And that trailer, I mean, the trailer is hyped. The trailer's so hype.
Yeah.
Oh my god. Yeah, I'm very much ready for this game. I hope the story's coherent.
Watching the trailer gave me the exact same feel of when I was a kid and I first, without even playing any Final Fantasy games, saw the movie for Final Fantasy VII.
Gotcha.
And just like, I remember there was this stupid scene where Cloud is just on a motorcycle and then like while drifting in the motorcycle, whips out one sword and then connects like 5 other swords to it to make like a weird bastardized version of the Buster Sword. And I was just like, oh, this is what this could be.
Yep.
I'm excited. We should move on from PlayStation, though, because we're already like 40 minutes in and we're still talking PlayStation.
Yeah, so there's a lot to talk about. Let's talk briefly about Pokemon. Did you watch the Pokemon trailer?
Yes, I did.
I am hella hyped about Pokemon. I've played every game in this series, including all of the side ones. A lot of people have weird opinions here and there, but I think that I'm ready for this. This looks like it's going to be cool. They're changing up the art style. The gimmick seeming to be really cool, and I love the new starters as well as the new Pokemon they showed off.
The possibility of more multiplayer in a Pokemon game. I'm excited for that.
That's the biggest thing for me is being able to kind of run around with other people. I mean, I'm very curious about the story stuff because obviously they've been getting better and better at that.
Yeah.
But
at this point, I'd say the Pokemon game I'm most invested in is actually Temtem.
Yeah.
I have the most hours into that. But a big part of that is because it's all co-op. Like you can play through the whole game with a buddy. So I played through the whole game with a buddy.
The good thing about Scarlet and Violet is that it's non-linear. You don't have to follow the story in a linear way. You can just play the game. It's open world. So that's going to be an interesting thing. I'm curious how that's going to work mechanically. Which is cool because it's like, say if you and I are playing, we can just go off and fuck off and do our own things, And then,
I feel like...
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I was saying, based on the trailer, it looks like if you're in one area and you have a friend in another area, you guys can just trade right there, which will open up a cool new system of helping each other and stuff. What were you going to say?
I was going to say, just mechanically, I assume they're still probably going to kind of stop people with the gyms. It's probably going to be you can go any direction you want, but eventually you'll have to hit all the gyms.
Yep.
And then they'll probably it would be kind of cool if they like focused in more on like typing versus level, even in a weird way. Like
right.
You know, if you almost require a certain team or a certain typing to take on an area. But I don't know, it looks cool. I'll be honest, I have the next gen strat though.
Yeah.
I'm gonna start the game. I'm gonna catch LeChonk, and then I'll have him, and then I'll catch another one. And I'll name him Le Boy, and then I'll have another one, name him Le Dude, and I'll just keep doing that, and I'll have a party, and then I'll win. Like. I don't care how long I have to grind a full party of LeChonks. The Chonks will inherit the world.
LeChonks will inherit the planet.
And the fact I can say that means that I'm really looking forward to the new Pokemon.
Yeah, no,
which I haven't said in a little while.
I'm very hyped for it. I like the way the legendaries are designed too. I like the whole past versus future thing. Yeah, there's not much else to say on that. People have plenty of videos and opinions. I'll have a video on it probably too, but. Yeah.
It looks good.
Very,
it looks very
good looking game. I'm hyped for that.
What else we got on the list that's been coming out?
I'm kind of going through the trailers that I have on my list here. I mean, if you kind of just want to go over all of the Warhammer, I know that's something you care about. I mean, if you could sum that up in 15 minutes.
15 minutes for 4 games.
Yep.
Yeah, sure.
Just assume that people know of Warhammer, and if they don't, they don't. If they do, they do.
All right. If you know about Warhammer, this is for you. If you don't know about Warhammer, just skip like 15 minutes. Yep. We've had a few awesome things come out. I'll start with the older one. A new trailer for Space Marine 2 dropped. Mm-hmm. Super excited for that. Everything is looking great. I'll be honest, they haven't showed us a lot of gameplay yet, so I'm a little concerned about that. But all of the like rendered stuff looks great. It seems like they got the tone down right.
Can I cut you off real quick? The thing that stood out to me in Space Marine 2, because I know nothing that much about it, were the xenomorphs. Is there a xenomorph race of aliens?
We're fighting gene stealers.
I was like, those are fucking xenomorphs. Look, I looked them up and it said gene stealers. Like, that's a xenomorph.
Yeah, no, they're xenomorphs. Warhammer just started by basically a group of guys grabbing every franchise they could and going with it.
And I'm saying this might get me to play this game. Is that there's xenomorphs in it?
Well, there's xenomorphs, but they're also Lovecraftian xenomorphs.
Exactly.
Like the higher tier ones have like the tentacle mouths, and they can like break your brain with their brain.
Oh, my friend, you haven't read the Alien comics, have you?
I haven't read the Alien comics.
I got to introduce you to some Alien forums. If you like Lovecraftian shit.
Anyway, Space Marine 2 looks like it's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, it does.
So looking forward to that.
And there's gameplay. Isn't there gameplay in that trailer? I thought there was.
There's a bit.
Right?
There's a bit. It's just there isn't as much as I want yet. Gotcha. Which, I mean, I just want the game in my hands, so let's be honest about this. I'm going to save the one I'm most excited for, though, for last, though. Up next is one that I'm excited for. Is a bit of an odd project. They announced a game. They released a trailer June 1st, which was Warhammer 40k Bolt Gun is what it's called. Mm-hmm. This is really niche, and I'm super into it because it's a classic first-person shooter. Like, it's a Doom style first-person shooter, like old Doom. It's set to have retro graphics. It's basically what it looks like they're trying to do is they're trying to make the sort of Doom clone that Warhammer should have had in that era that they never got.
Gotcha.
And they're making it into a fast-paced, like, pixel shooter. It looks great. Like, I mean, I'm gonna have so much fun with it. I've been on a kick playing games like this recently. I've actually been playing through Doom 2 recently,
very good,
which has been interesting. I'm trying to get through Blood, but Blood hates me as well as anybody who plays it. So we're getting there. But anyway, so Warhammer 40k Bolt Gun. Check out the trailer. It's only about a minute long, and only about maybe 20 seconds of it is actually gameplay. The rest of it is actually just like a fun little like cinematic where a guy's like unboxing all his old minis. He finds a floppy disk with the bolt gun on it. Anyway, so that looks great. Just wanted to bring that up. Third one I'm going to bring up is, I hate to say it, the one I'm least excited about. Dark Tide is coming out.
Yeah, I actually just fucking started that trailer for those of you watching the video version because I wanted to kind of watch it again. Dark Tide.
Okay, Darktide might turn out to be great, but it kind of
I
looks
like
bad.
I like the trailer. Again, that's different than the game, right?
Yeah.
Trailers are to entice you. Games are to be played. But it looks kind of like a weird hero shooter esque thing.
Okay, here's the thing. The trailer really shows off the heroes and like these big enemies, and it's like, this looks crazy, right? It's gonna be Left 4 Dead.
That's what it seems like to me. It seems like a Left 4 Dead situation.
And it's weird because, well, they have already a couple of games like this. They already have, obviously, Vermintide for Warhammer Fantasy or Age of Sigmar, I forget. And obviously those are great games. And then they also have a less great game that is in the 40K universe, which is a bit different, which is Space Hulk. That one is all fighting Gene Stealers. But anyway, they have all these like crazy enemies, and I feel like they really need to like focus on one and have that be the fights.
Yeah.
From the trailer, it looks like they're going up against a Nurgle cult, which could be interesting, but I'll probably be the first person to say this. I don't think there was enough Nurglings. It's a long story, but there isn't enough small people crawling out of big people and vomits.
Right.
So it's interesting. It's just judging by the trailer, it doesn't. I'm not sure about the execution yet, and I'm not sure about the variety in the gameplay.
It could just be a bad trailer for that stuff. Because again,
it could be a bad trailer.
They still have time, you know.
Oh yeah. They still have time, but yeah, it's coming out. I'm going to get it. It's going to be co-op, so I'll force some other people to get it, and then I'll play it, and it'll be fun. But it's definitely out of the group the one I'm least excited about.
Right.
How much time do I have left?
Right now,
minutes?
I was going to say the CRPG is on right now, trailer-wise, so if you want to talk a bit of that.
Most excited, Warhammer 40K Rogue Trader. They're doing a fucking CRPG. Finally. I have been wanting to play anything CRPG related with Warhammer 40K or anything like top down like this for so long. It's
interesting that it's taken this long, considering that
because they have a tabletop RPG you can play.
Yeah.
But which is called Rogue Trader, which obviously
it's also interesting because they have RTS games. You think like the next thing to go is like, what if we punched in a little bit?
I mean, okay, they technically did that, which was hold on. Warhammer 40K. Oh man, my brain is going totally dead. Age of War? No. Shit. Okay, sorry. It was a series they did. There were 3 of them. The first one was a regular RTS. The second one was a bit weird. The third one was a regular RTS and kind of flopped.
Okay.
I feel so bad I'm forgetting this. It's a series that I've always admired but never put too many hours into. Hold on. But anyway, in the second game, they limited it so it was more like a squad game. At any given time, you probably only had like 6 to 10 units active at a time. And of those units, they were like squads of 3. So it was closer to an RPG like that. But anyway, Rogue Trader looks awesome.
It does.
The hand-drawn portion of the trailer is interesting. But it totally immediately... I'm honestly surprised it's not being made by Paradox, just by everything that's been going on with the trailer and everything. But it looks like a very Paradox interactive CRPG, which those are my favorite CRPGs. It looks super varied. I mean, we got like the fight in the gritty Undercity. We got like this temple that looks like it's being guarded by everybody and being fought over for everything. We got like these labs that are obviously part of the Mechanicus, fighting servitors. It looks like it could be like just a good introduction to the whole universe, like for somebody who doesn't know what they're doing, because it's so hard for 40K games to like be a game and then they tend to focus on just one thing, and then it's hard to recommend that game no matter how good it is as an introduction. It's like, oh, Battlefleet Gothica is an amazing strategy game. Should I recommend it to someone as their first Warhammer experience? Fuck no. Not unless you really, really know like space naval combat well in this specific fantasy universe. But anyway, Rogue Trader's coming out. I am so excited for it. It is actually ridiculous. And I just don't know why it took them this long. Also, I just noticed I see some dark boys. That's cool. Sorry. I'm just noticing more stuff with the trailer as I play it in the background. That about wraps it for Warhammer, though.
All right.
The company still sucks. We're still kind of boycotting them because they need to let my animation boys make their content, for the love of God. But still, Warhammer 40K, for us who like the video games, we're sitting pretty tight. It's nice.
You got a good amount of them. All right, trailer's on now.
Okay,
let's talk Sonic.
Sonic. All right. Yes. So excited.
I'm gonna.
I've been talking for a while. You got anything to say?
I can talk onto this because
I get a drink of water.
I would say that a bit of. I'm kind of a fan of some Sonic games, not a lot of them, right? Some are fun. Obviously, like Adventure 2 is one of my favorite. But I think that's the one that's like the favorite for a lot of people.
Yeah, don't forget Sonic Unleashed.
Sonic Unleashed was okay. I didn't like Sonic Unleashed that much. Sonic Unleashed was just
Sonic Unleashed is the butt of a lot of jokes.
I was gonna say it's not as bad as Sonic 06.
Okay.
It's not as bad as Sonic 06 was. I got initially from the gameplay trailer, which you guys are seeing on screen probably right now if you're watching the video version of the podcast. I immediately got kind of that Sonic 06 vibe because they were going for that more realistic look. But overall, just to kind of keep things brief here, because I'll make a video on my personal channel about this, Sonic in this is open world. I'm not saying that you can't have an open world Sonic game. I'm just saying that without proper direction, taking a almost entirely linear series and making it open world probably won't work out. Because even Mario Odyssey is the most open world Mario has ever been. It still has linear maps. They just have various paths you can take to finish the level and places to go back to. You know, different like subworlds and other things to unlock. I don't really even get a feel as to what the hell is happening in this game based on the trailer. I don't know if you did.
No, there was one of the comments directly underneath it immediately pulled in exactly what I was thinking, which is how they put it is that this Sonic game feels like a sandbox that's been separated from the rest of another game.
Yes.
Where they just threw in whatever mechanics didn't break the game.
Yep. It feels
and
like
with no thought as to like what is good or what is bad, just what currently works.
Yeah, it looks like
By the way, it's for later, but I just sent you a video. There is a fan-based Sonic game that is started as not an open world, but like an open map, and it's a 3D Sonic Utopia is what it's called.
I think I might know what this is. I'll check it out afterwards, though.
The reason I sent it to you, though, is just because one of the things for me, and this is, okay, I'll be honest, this is a nitpick. It's a very minor thing when it comes to a Sonic game. Yeah. But the movement was bad.
The movement's bad. The trailer's on right now. The movement doesn't look good. It's like they slightly understood some mechanics from a Sonic game.
It's weird because it's just I know Sonic has a tendency to be a little jarring with its motion because you know when you hit different pads and whatnot and you suddenly are able to go super fast, you know, then you go. And if you mess up, you tend to just instantly stop or like, you know, hit something and slow down quite a bit. But it seemed like in the gameplay, you were either going Mach 5 or you were walking very, very slowly.
Yes, there's a lot of moments where your momentum is interrupted, which is why I mentioned the linear thing earlier.
Like just climbing the first tower. It's like, because he was just climbing. It's like, on to the next level, not the top. Yep. Just like a mid-level. Yeah. He like crests this area going like Mach 5, rolling up the side of the building, hits the top, and then instantly stops.
Then stops, yeah. I mean,
and then starts walking slowly up the rest of the area, and it's like, I'm sorry.
There's a moment. There are plenty of other moments now, like where he's going through, say, a river, and he's grinding the rails and running, and then the rail stops, and there's nothing for him to attach to, so he just does a ground slam and stops the momentum. And it's like the Sonic games are all about speed. That's your thing.
Yeah, it's about speed, and it's about, as far as I understand it, hitting the point where like you know the levels well enough and you're good enough at the game.
That you
If
can
you're a
just go
good
through.
Sonic player, you're just going.
Every-
Like when
yeah.
you're learning a level, you hit dead ends, you hit like bad paths. But once you know what you're doing, it's all about finding the best path and then also like doing it quickly. And it's the start of speed running.
Yeah, it's like not the mechanics here aren't exactly great because I can look. I will absolutely forgive video games that are early on in development, for example. But
yeah.
yes, maybe what we're seeing here is early in development for this game, but it is so disjointed that it's like, what am I actually supposed to understand what to play here? What is my motivations to get to places? In like Breath of the Wild, it works because it's a Legend of Zelda game. The games prior to that have already established certain themes and things that help you understand what you're going to be doing and looking for in an open world Legend of Zelda game. It makes sense because in a slight way, the very first Legend of Zelda games were open world for what that time period was. You were dungeon running. You were going to different places, unlocking different things. You were able to just go places early on, right? So that seems to make a natural next step to make an open world Legend of Zelda. In terms of an Elden Ring, yes, it is a jump, it is a try from the previous Souls-like games. But even up to Bloodborne's inception, Dark Souls 3 and Bloodborne had so many branching paths that it makes sense that okay, an open world situation makes sense. But guess what? They still have linear dungeons in Elden Ring.
They still have linear dungeons, and then also the gameplay mechanics themselves lended themselves.
Exactly.
Like, I mean, technically, there is, like item management and to a very lesser degree, I'm not going to say crafting, but like trading and, depending on your build, you need certain items, and then being able to like exemplify that and make it bigger in Elden Ring. And then also Souls games have always been about having extra paths that you're able to go on and full areas that are optional. So like taking those mechanics and then making them bigger and exemplifying them makes sense.
Makes complete sense. But
if there's a thing like that in Sonic that I don't know of, it wasn't shown in the trailer.
It wasn't shown in the trailer. I mean, if the open world part of Sonic is just much like Elden Ring, just this open instance, okay, I get it, maybe. But then you should start off by showing us some linear stuff as well, though.
I wasn't planning on shitting on Sonic this much. Like, I really want Sonic to succeed. But the other thing is, even if it is just like an outside area, basically like travel from point A to point B, where are you going?
Yeah.
Like, what was the last Sonic game that had good like 3D movements and like 3D levels?
It depends on the era of Sonic you're thinking of, really. But like, I would even argue that Sonic Adventure. I mean, the most recent, the most like they had that Sonic Arcade one where you played as Little Sonic or the modern Sonic. That was pretty good. Sonic Adventure had good momentum in its levels, but.
My point being, though, to me it seems like a relatively rare thing for a 3D Sonic to pan out as well as at least the fans want it to.
Yeah.
So seeing the movements and like the core mechanics of this Sonic so far, I'm trying to picture those mechanics and movement playing out in like instanced dungeons across the world.
Yeah.
And I can't imagine them being that good. I don't know. Again, I didn't really mean to shit on Sonic this much.
No. I mean, Sonic is an IP that has good games, right? Like and some of the sideline games that aren't even part of the main, series are still good games. But this doesn't seem to be the next logical step to take Sonic, in my opinion.
Yeah. It seems like, at least in my experience, I feel like every 2 or 3 Sonic games that come out, there's one that's really good, where obviously people who gave a shit about Sonic and like the story, the story, but then like the movement and the feel of Sonic, like get a chance to make a good Sonic game. And then there's normally 1 or 2 that's just kind of a sellout.
This one feels like that.
I'm concerned that that's what this is going to be.
Yeah.
It's not sold on it yet. It could just be an early thing. And I mean, for Christ's sake, up until like very late in development, Halo was supposed to be a strategy game.
Right.
And then they literally like scrapped all of it within, I want to say, a month of release because they popped into multiplayer and realized it wasn't fun. So like, and obviously it's a lot harder with a modern game and a game that is open world, and you should be laying down foundations to build more stuff on top of.
Right.
But it's still possible. They could swing it around. It's just from what I saw in the trailer. From what I saw in the trailer, I just really don't have a lot of faith in it.
There's not much going on there. But that's the thing, is they can swing it around, but we are in a modern era. There are plenty of open world games. There are plenty, right? So there is an experience here that exists that can teach developers like what works, what doesn't work, right? I mean, for almost all of the games that we consider great open worlds now, they always speak for their inspirations, and a lot of times
for every Breath of the Wild, there's 30 Ubisoft games.
And there is, right? But like prior to Breath of the Wild, it was Skyrim. Everyone is trying to get the Skyrim or Grand Theft Auto feel, right? Because those are your open world games that you knew. But I don't know what the inspiration for this is. But also, as you mentioned earlier, like with an Elden Ring and stuff, it works for their IPs. Their IPs are translatable. I don't think Sonic is translatable for an open world. There's just random shit on this map. There's just random shit everywhere.
I feel like the only Sonic that could work as a open world would be specifically a Sonic that really plays into kind of the God complex Sonic. Like if you had a Sonic game where you were jumping over mountains and shit and actually going Mach 5, that would kind of be stupid fun.
That would be kind of fun, yeah. Like if it were like, yeah, and if they had zones like cities and other places that became almost a linear level, perfectly fine.
Yeah.
But this one, he's fighting robots and shit.
Yeah, like, I mean, it would be awesome if you were, like, out in the world and it's like, oh, it's one of Robotnik's convoys or something. And you just roll up going Mach 8, again, faster than when he was climbing up the tower. And then just destroy all the robots and keep going. If it became less of, like, a difficulty thing and more of kind of like a speed run, like, who can be most efficient at fucking over Robotnik and winning the game, it could be cool. Yeah. It's just... I just don't know.
Actually, if
we should move on.
We should move on. I'll
too much about Sonic.
Again, I said I'll make a video on it for myself and my channel and talk more about it because I have a lot of ideas. But that I think is the worst of the trailers I've seen thus far.
And I may make a video on it when it comes out, but for my channel, I'm strictly doing stuff that I get a chance to play.
But unless you have anything else you want to cover, that was kind of the last one that we had on our list.
I had, let me see here, briefly was going to mention that No Man's Sky has another expansion, Leviathan, that's coming out. Looks good. And then that Inquisitor game you sent me also looks pretty cool.
The Inquisitor game was one that I didn't add it to the trailer list here, and I should have because it was a very interesting concept for that. I was just very curious, like what your thoughts would be on that briefly, but we don't really have that much time. But honestly, it just feels like Assassin's Creed Witcher.
Literally,
that's what it is.
Heavier on the Witcher side, but it definitely looks like Assassin's Creed Witcher, and I'm excited for it.
Yeah, it's based on like a book series, I'm guessing. Based on the opening title card, it's like a book series or stories.
Yeah, it did mention that.
The gameplay looks like it's an early trailer. Like it probably has room to improve, but it reminds me a lot of like old like PC RPGs, like a Dragon Age 2 era of stuff, kind of even Witcher 2 era of stuff like that. So I hope it's good. It looks very interesting. It's a fantasy game. But yeah, outside of that, I don't think there's much else to really put pressure on. We'll keep our eyes open.
I think we covered most of the big things. Yeah, I think that's pretty much it. Oh, I do have a bit of gaming news that is unfortunate.
All right, let's talk.
It does look like they are pretty well cutting off Cyberpunk for more anything.
That's unfortunate.
Like they're releasing a large patch here soon. It might be out by the time this video goes up. But they're releasing one last final patch that I heard of, and then I heard that they officially canceled any DLC.
Really? Oh, that is unfortunate.
Which is just a nail in the coffin.
That's saying it.
Because so many people have been hoping that Cyberpunk was going to pull a No Man's Sky and kind of like slowly work its way out into its own space. But just looking at it from the articles I've been reading, I think Cyberpunk's kind of done.
I was hoping for Cyberpunk to do well. I really was.
Yeah.
I really, really was. I was rooting for that game. But sometimes there's nothing you can do about it, right? Sometimes what you get is what you get, and the game was already the development for that game was already difficult to begin with, right? So, and the entire process of keeping it alive was on life support the last few years. That's the best way to put it, in my opinion. There's not much else.
They've gotten it to a pretty playable situation. Yeah. Again, I've been enjoying it. It has a tendency to pull me out of the experience when the motorcycle I'm driving next to doesn't register that it's in dunes and it just keeps going straight while the hills are going. But you know, it is what it is. But that was just a bit of gaming news I had to throw in on the end there. I do have a shitty opinion.
All right, let's go.
It's a shitty opinion.
Let's go. I'm ready.
That I agree with.
Oh shit! A turn, a twist.
It doesn't have anything. It's nothing big. It's nothing like, oh, this is revolutionary.
Yeah.
It's just, I saw somebody ranting about shotguns in video games.
Okay.
And it was this meme, and it was this guy saying, like, man, I sure love shotguns in video games. I fucking love being outclassed by anybody 10 feet farther away from me.
Yep.
And I do. Like, I was reading it, and I'm like, fuck. That is me. I love shotguns in video games. They're so stupid.
They are stupid.
But there was just such a discussion underneath it about like, oh, why would you use this or that or this or that? And I'm like, dude, it's a shitty opinion. Shotguns are fun.
They are.
This is what it is. Are they effective? Well, not really. Are they fun?
I mean, we come from the old Modern Warfare 2 era where the AA-12 was God. So,
old Modern Warfare where you could put fucking like birdshot into a what was it? No, it was like the snake killer rounds. Was it
something along those lines? I don't remember.
It was like a 9mm snake killer round, which in real life is like 5 BB pellets, and those were like insta kills up to 30 feet. Oh, it's so stupid.
Yeah. No, you know what? I have to say, I also agree. Shotguns are just fun. You know what? In a especially in a non-competitive, shotguns and Titanfalls those are really good. I would say in a non-competitive space too, in like a game, like a regular shooter, that's like single player. Shotguns are god tier. There's so much, especially when you find one, you're like, oh hell yeah. You know?
Remind me later. I want to do a full episode on this. It's an odd thought, but it's the topic of how like chosen gameplay can change your experience in it.
Yeah.
Because like with shotguns, whenever I play shotguns, like you play shotguns in Battlefield, it means a certain kind of gameplay style, especially if you're in a more open map. It's like, all right, you need to utilize the game's other mechanics to get them in close.
Yeah.
If you're playing shotguns in Titanfall, you got to utilize the movement to get in close. If you're playing it in Call of Duty, you just need to use a lot of smoke grenades and be toxic. But yeah, remind me to cover that in like a whole podcast at one point though, because there's a lot of stuff like in Souls game, different classes you can play. Yeah. RPGs, different roles you can play in RPGs. There's a lot to dig in on that.
Yeah.
But yeah, that is all I had.
That's all I have as well.
Perfect. We did it. We did a video podcast. Thank you so much. Oh, hold on. Here we go. Video podcast. So now they know I did that. Thank you so much for watching. That's bad. I'm switching that over. Thank you so much for watching. Honestly, again, this is a bit of an experiment for us, talking both just strictly video game news as well as actually having a visual aspect that you can all enjoy or not enjoy depending on your preference. But yeah, again, thank you so much for watching. You can find us on all of your podcasts streaming services that we are currently aware of, as well as now you can find us on YouTube at Digidex. You can also find us on social media under, is it Digidexy?
Yep, Twitter and Instagram under Digidexy.
Twitter and Instagram. You can find us under Digidexy. I think that's all the plugs.
Yep, that's all the plugs for right now. So yeah,
Okay.
make sure to subscribe if this is your first time coming across our content. We have our previous 3 episodes or 4 episodes that are up on iTunes as well as Spotify and those your other apps. But for those of you listening in audio, make sure to go on YouTube like Ben said. And yeah, we will see you guys in the next episode of Digidex.